This will be the episode where all the mysteries are revealed. After the confrontation with Andreas, Susan also fell into self-doubt. She's about to give up looking for the final chapter of Magpie Murders, and she's about to give up looking for Alan Conway's death. When she came to her boss's office, she spoke helplessly of her desperate situation.
I'm sorry, Charles, it's all gone, all the notes, everything. And Claire Jenkins had a copy, but she destroyed it, and that's the closest I got.
Well, full marks for trying.
Charles has already made up his mind. Susan has been hesitant to become CEO after the acquisition, but investors can't wait. Charles chose another person, Peter. And Peter has been told that Magpie Murders is missing the last chapter. Susan was surprised not that the CEO position was gone but Charles' decision. Peter suggested having another novelist complete Magpie Murders. Charles agreed. And the book's title was changed from Magpie Murders to The Magpie Murders. Back in the office, Susan looked at the poster of the trailer for Magpie Murders and lost her mind. Just then, she noticed an unusual problem. On the poster are all the titles of the Atticus Pund series. She wrote Magpie Murders at the bottom. When all the initials are circled, a very thoughtful word appears. An anagram. What does this represent? Alice interrupted Susan, and she met Jemima, who had just left her job a few days ago, so Susan got Jemima's contact information and found her. They met at a cafe. Susan asked her questions. Jemima said she would never make the rudimentary mistake of missing a print or missing out on the publisher's most important book. That Wednesday, she got the first draft that Charles gave her and went to photocopying. Wait, Wednesday? Charles said is a different time. He said he got the first draft at dinner with Alan on Thursday night. Regarding the sudden resignation, Jemima's answer was also different from what Charles said.
Why did you leave so suddenly?
Because Charles asked me to.
He told me that you were the one who wanted to leave.
That's not true. It'd be better for both of us if I left at once. He paid me a month's wages.
Susan seems to have seen the truth of everything. She hurried back to the company to Charles' office. At the bottom of the office drawer, she found the last chapter of Magpie Murders.
Susan, what are you doing? Ah. I see you found it.
Yes, the missing chapter.
At this time, why did Charles look so eerie? Charles seems to have experienced it. He was unperturbed, poured 2 glasses of wine, and sat in front of Susan. He said he did this for the future of the company. Susan shredded Charles' lie step by step without scruples. All things start with Alan. According to previous clues, Alan didn't like Atticus Pund. He wanted to be a serious literary writer, and whodunit was very low in his opinion. The more successful the Atticus Pund series is, the more miserable he is. In fact, at the beginning of the first Atticus Pund, Alan already had a plan. The first letter of each book's title in the series forms a word, an anagram. If you want the game set, then the name of the last book must start with M. That's why he had to Magpie Murders, not the Magpie Murders. Since the book's title suggests an anagram, which word is the anagram for anagrams? Alan also planned it from the beginning, and the word was Atticus Pund. When Susan looked at her computer, she already had an anagram of Atticus Pund.
Cat up nudist. It's an anagram of Atticus Pund.
It seems like a meaningless word. But not only this. The letters can make up a more ironic word.
And this was his torpedo, Atticus Pund.
He knew what he was doing from the very beginning.
Cat up nudist, but there was a second. Much worse anagram. A. Stupid. And that leaves a 4-letter word. One of the most offensive in the English language.
A stupid count. What would the reader think if the word was spelled out by them? Who is this word mocking? The readers? No doubt this will throw Atticus Pund into a vortex. Not only did Clover Books' previous efforts fail, but his equity and reputation would also depreciate. In fact, last Wednesday, Charles received the first draft of Magpie Murders. The argument at dinner with Alan on Thursday was because Alan had been drinking too much and told Charles he would destroy the Atticus Pund. Of course, Charles didn't want Alan to do this, so he wanted to kill him. A well-conceived plan gradually emerged in his mind. He hid the last chapter when he handed over the manuscript to Susan on Friday. We will talk about this reason later. On Saturday evening, he came to Alan's villa and saw Alan and Andreas on the rooftop. Charles drove the car into a corner to hide his whereabouts, where Susan found the car's fold. It happened to capture the moment when Andreas and Alan embraced. After Andreas left, he entered the house and begged Alan to change his mind first. After begging to no avail, he chose to push Alan off the roof. Then in Alan's studio, he cleaned up all his notes and drafts on Magpie murders and took the last chapter of the handwritten draft. Do you remember that suicide note that was handwritten, but the envelope was printed? That was the final chapter of Atticus Punn's last words in the novel and the ending of Magpie murders. And Charles just used this suicide note to create the illusion of Alan's suicide. So Susan felt that the tone of this suicide note was not like Alan's tone at first.
Together, they told exactly the story you wanted. Remorse and then resignation. There's just one small detail you hoped nobody would notice. The letter was handwritten, but you had to find an old envelope.
And the envelope was typed.
I don't need to say more about the remaining clues. The viewer should have already reasoned out. For example, Charles said he hadn't been to Suffolk in months but directed Susan to bypass roadwork on his way to Alan's funeral. Jemima's sudden departure was because Charles wanted to keep others from knowing he had received a complete novel. After describing all this, Charles admitted the crime but hoped Susan would not call the police. How is this possible? Just like when he persuaded Alan, seeing that his pleas were fruitless, Charles became murderous again. He picked up the trophy and threw it at Susan, who tried to get up but couldn't do anything. Charles was utterly insane. Cursing in his mouth, he lit the curtains and then ran away. Susan struggled to get up, protecting the first draft of the final chapter of Magpie Murders, but fell again and couldn't get up. She could only watch the fire engulf everything around her. In the blur, she saw that someone had come to rescue her. Is it Pund? No, it's Andreas. It turns out that Andreas was not idle after he left sadly that day. He let a hacker find the IP address that sent the email to Susan. He saw the email was from the office of Charles at Clover Books. Everything in reality finally came to an end. In the hospital, Susan woke up chatting with the imaginary Pund.
You solved the crime. The killer has been apprehended. I would say you have done remarkably well.
I'll take that as a compliment coming from you.
The missing chapter?
Yes.
You have read it?
Not yet. You solve them.
The detective will always solve the crime. As sure as day will follow the night. You wish to know the answer?
That's all I want to know.
Then come with me.
Now?
You are too busy?
Susan follows in Pund's footsteps into the world of fiction. What awaits them is all the truth about the 3 murders in the novel. Just a quick review for audiences. There were 2 consecutive murders in Pye Hall. The housekeeper Mary fell down the stairs, and the other was the beheading of Sir Magnus. Following Pund's investigation, another homicide emerged 12 years ago, when Mary's son Sam drowned. What is the connection between the 3 murders? Back to the story, Assistant James and Inspector Chubb have been waiting at the bar's door for a long time. They met Sanderling and Robert in here. Pund didn't identify the murderer. He chatted about Mary's death first. Mary's death was indeed an accident. If there was a killer, it would have to be the phone downstairs. The clue comes from the day Pund and Lady Pye met.
This is Atticus Pund. He's a well-known investigator.
Would you take that, darling? The telephones don't work upstairs. Nothing works in this house. It's just one thing after another.
On the day of Mary's death, Lady Pye made 2 phone calls home. Mary, who was cleaning the stairs, hurried downstairs, tripped over the wires of the vacuum cleaner, and fell down the stairs to her death. Here to share a piece of knowledge, the background in the novel is 1955. As early as 1901, British engineer Hubert Booth applied for a patent for vacuum cleaners. In 1906 he invented small household vacuum cleaners. Returning to the story, Sanderling is glad that Robert wasn't the murderer of his mother. In the death of Magnus Pye, Pund's answer is that the death of Magnus and Mary are related. But the story has to start with the death of Sam 12 years ago. Mary has been wearing the collar of Sam's dog named Bella. The dog was given to Sam by his father for his birthday. And we also learned an important clue from the father's mouth. Mary's personality changed drastically after Sam's death. She looked at Robert daily and didn't let him out of sight.
What was it that changed? Why? Your mother was not close to you, Robert, but afterwards you became almost her prisoner. She was afraid to lose you. But could it be she knew what you had done? And she was afraid that you might do it again.
With Pund's reasoning, the truth is revealed. Robert poisoned Bella out of jealousy of his parents' love for Sam. And then the psychopathic Robert drowned his brother Sam in the lake. These happened to be seen by Mother Mary. Mary was standing in front of the workshop's window that just had a view of the lake. In one detail, the gardener Brent approached the shore with Sam in his arms, and Robert plunged into the lake again. Why? The purpose was to cover up his already soaked body. And when Sanderling and Robert tell Mary they're getting engaged, Mary's attitude suddenly changes. Those words weren't really addressed to Sanderling but to Robert. She knew her son was abnormal and could not defile Sanderling's next generation. Sanderling was inferior to her skin color, so she misunderstood Mary. As for Robert, even if he knew Mary was talking about him, he couldn't say it. But Mary is also wise. She knows she has a dangerous son. She can't look at him all the time. She knew what to do next. She wrote the ins and outs of the matter in a letter. The letter was in the hands of Magnus, whom she admires and trusts most, and told him to open the letter if one day she appeared unfortunate. She also told Robert what she did. But all was disrupted by Mary's unexpected death. When Mary's funeral, the pastor said the prayer, "We want to remember what she left behind." Robert suddenly realizes that his secret has been left to Magnus in the letter. It will destroy his life.
What she had left behind was a letter which identified Robert as the killer of his brother all those years before. He broke into Pie Hall the same night in an attempt to find the letter before Sir Magnus returned from his holiday.
He couldn't open the safe. That's why he faked the burglary.
Then Sir Magnus came home. Robert arranged to meet him, and we can imagine what occurred.
As Pund reasoned, Magnus confronted Robert with a threatening letter. After Robert's pleas to no avail, he kills Magnus. Then he burned Mary's letter. But in panic, he took the wrong envelope. What he burned was the envelope of Mary's letter and the threatening letter. So when Pund came to the house that day, he saw Mary's handwritten envelope and machine-typed threatening letter on the table.
The murder of Sir Magnus. It's not what is written, it is how it is written. That is where the solution can be found. Same handwriting.
All the truth destroyed Sanderling's psychological defenses, and she no longer dared to look at the man she loved. The story of the novel world has finally come to an end.
Goodbye, Susan. It's been a pleasure.
For me too.
Here is Minutes Movies. If you like my video, subscribe me. Thank you.